Hey, I want to make a video of my LS swap into my 1983 K20. This motor came out of a 2007 GMC Sierra 2500. Had about 130,000 miles on it. Got it at a junkyard. Just pulled the valve covers, looked at it, everything looked clean, so I stuck it in there, and it runs pretty good. So kept my battery in the normal location. Let's see, I got a bunch of power wires running to it. I used the factory harness here, running down to the lug on the battery. And I got my ground going down to the engine. There's my alternator wire. Runs here right over to this lug on the alternator. My wiring harness was reworked by Adam Warren, and my PCM was reprogrammed by Brendan Patton on LT1 swap. Adam did these fuses here for me, and those relays. I got just a Summit Racing 4-core radiator that fits pretty good. It's a little short, as you can see. This thing, my top bracket's angled down just a little bit, but other than that it fit great. The fans I actually have mounted in front of it. They're pushers. You can mount them as pushers or pullers. I've got a oil cooler there in front of this fan. There you can see the fans, and they fit perfectly in there in front of the radiator core support. They're 14-inch. Can't remember what brand they were. I'll have to look that up. So you can see I still kind of have a rat's nest of wiring in there. Still pretty fresh. I didn't want to tape everything up in case I had to dig into the wiring if I had any problems, but I haven't had any issues. The only issue was when I first fired it up, it wanted to backfire, and then I finally remembered that I forgot to plug in my cam sensor in the back of the engine. I had to take it out to put in the oil pressure sensor, and I just forgot to plug it back in, so it wanted to backfire because it didn't know what position the cam was in. Once I got that plugged in, then it worked just fine. No AC or anything like that. I do have a Dakota digital dash, the VHX series. It works awesome. I bought the OBD2 module that goes with the VHX. It's BIM 1-2 that plugs into the OBD2 port, and it gets speed, RPM, temp. I did use the oil pressure sensor that came with the Dakota digital dash, so it's not getting that through the OBD2 port, but it is getting volts. So the only thing it's not getting through to OBD2 is this oil pressure. And then my speedometer's bouncing around a lot, but that is because the gears in my driven gear and my transfer case are starting to strip. So what I'll probably do is get a Dakota digital GPS speed sensor, and it can be programmed to 128 pulses per minute to, or pulses per mile, I guess it is, to send a signal to the ECM. Because the ECM needs to know that the vehicle is moving, or it can die sometimes when you come to a stop. The engine will die if it doesn't know that the vehicle's moving. Because every once in a while my speedometer will drop to 0 if the gears are just too stripped. And if the speedometer is at 0, obviously the computer doesn't think the truck's moving. So when I come to a stop, the RPMs will drop way down and it'll almost die, and sometimes it will die. So the computer does need to know that the truck's moving. So, but I use the LSX engine mounts. Just got them off of Amazon, and they're moved all the way to the old clamshell small block 350 mounts are moved to the very front position. That puts the engine almost, it's pretty much touching the firewall on this side over here, but it's not enough to cause any issues. There's my Tach Module. You notice that's got a K on it. That's for 0607 models. This engine came out of early 2007. I found A's and B's and E's in the junkyard. Those are all just for different years, like 02, 03 or 03, 04. So make sure if you get an engine to get the gas pedal, the Tach Module, the alternator, all that kind of stuff you'll need. So, I used Earl's plumbing for power steering, because you just can't find, obviously, a hose that's going to go from the metric power steering pump to the 11/16 inverted flare into the old gearbox. So you kind of have to piece that together. And those fittings are pretty expensive, but you know, they have to hold like 3,000 psi. So that's just the easiest way to do it, is to custom make your own hose out of Earl's power steering. And it takes a special hose and special fittings. But other than that, I mean, I'm still using the 4-speed, the old 4-speed transmission. Still got the 4-speed in there and the 205 transfer case. You have to buy a certain flywheel, a certain clutch pilot bearing. But I found those, I think it was on Chevy Trucks Forum. A guy had already done it and listed the part numbers. I know it's a Sachs flywheel. Don't remember the part number or the pilot bearing, but it bolts right up and everything works good. The clutch works. Haven't had any problem with the steering, with the pump ratio versus the gear ratio and the gearbox. That's all been working good. So I just used the regular 2007, it's probably 2000 through 2008 hoses. The oil cooler lines down there, right there, are 10 AN Summit Racing AN lines going in the oil cooler up in front there. You can't quite see it, but yeah, fan 1 comes on at, I think, 195. Fan 2 comes on at 202, something like that, but they hardly ever come on with this 4-core radiator. I was a little leery about buying a Summit Racing radiator, but haven't had any leaks, no trouble with that. Yeah, it's really been a pretty simple swap. That's my horn, by the way. Haven't figured out how to get this one wired up. So to pass inspection, I just had to put in that button. So yeah, just got finished putting some kill mat sound deadener all behind the seat and on the floor underneath my mat here. It's really helped with the sound. So yeah, if you got any questions, just comment and I'll see if I can answer. But it's something I'd been wanting to do for a long time and finally got the nerve to do it. There's enough information out there that it's really not that difficult. So, alrighty.